My very first memory of Karen's voice. It was probably either Close to You or We've Only Just Begun. This would be, I'm gonna say kindergarten, 4 or 5 years old. Like nothing else existed at that moment. Like I had to tune out everything because I was so drawn to her voice. I used to, the moment I heard it, I began studying it from the moment I heard it. So not only was I mesmerized and drawn to it, but I studied it. You know, I started listening to Barbra Streisand and these different female artists, but Karen's voice was and always has been the most beautiful voice I've ever heard. So when I first heard it, it had a huge impact on me. And I knew that it was like, it entered my body. This is a little spiritual and out there, but this is the truth. It entered my body and it never left. It just, every time I hear it, it just fills me up more and more. And that started from the moment I heard it.
The richness of her voice and that melancholy melancholic quality to it, I think that's something you're born with. I mean, I don't know. I mean, 20 or 21, you're pretty unsophisticated to be able to evoke those kind of emotions. So, you know, it could be from growing up, and God knows what was going through her head when she was singing those songs. But I know for myself, being a singer, that when I'm singing lyrics, I have to be able to relate to the lyrics. Maybe not literally, but maybe I can go back to a memory of growing up or whatever. And I'm sure that, you know, it's almost like acting, that she could pull it up. She could, like, you know, pull it up from somewhere and to be able to communicate whatever that emotion was. I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty amazing thing to be able to convey that kind of sadness. I think there's a real sadness to her voice, and you know, maybe it's a past life thing, who knows, but it's very, very sophisticated. It's pure. It's a pure voice. I think that there's, off the top of my head, I think Cass Elliot had a pure voice. It comes from the heart. It's real, and I don't know. I mean, there's a, when you hear her voice, you hear sadness, and there's a melancholy, and it just comes from the soul. And there's, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of singers that have a career of singing, but to have that special quality, it just comes from a place, you know, on a cellular level. It's just something that you really can't put into words.
Karen had a silky sound, a simple sound, a unique sound. You knew it was her from note one. Those are those voices that we just feel comfortable listening to. There's nothing screechy about it. There's nothing grating about it. It's just, you just sort of want to sit back and, well, today I'd have a tequila. Back then, maybe a glass of wine.
Well, you know, Karen could sing, you know, low, and she could have that lower range with that clarity, and she would, you know, dip into the notes, and you'd be like, wow, you know, she got that low. But when she would sing, you know, every sha-la-la-la, you know, she would get up there, and sometimes she would even belt real high notes too. But she wasn't like, it wasn't fancy. It was never fancy. You know, not, you know, it wasn't to show off or just to get up there or like, let's modulate so we can show you the range. It was more like, what's the natural progression of this and how does it fit in the song? And it was just like, she was able to get wherever she wanted to go just because she was able to, but not because she was trying to. She was just, it just was. So she could actually get real low and get real high, but never once compromising that smooth quality. She always had that.
My classical training with my teacher in LA taught me to hear technique. Most of us don't listen to music and listen for technique, but I hear things all the time. I hear their vowels. I hear how they correct diphthongs. I hear how she places, she's up and over the pitch. I hear her breath control. I hear her phrasing. I hear everything about her technique. And then I hear Richard's genius in, the harmonies are so tight you can't pull them apart. You know, like I'm good at harmonizing, but I can't even hear all the notes in some of their harmonies because they're so pure and on pitch. Her phrasing and her pitch were exquisite.
We've only just begun, you know. I don't want to sing a Karen Carpenter song on a Karen Carpenter documentary, but when I see those two or think of those two, I hear we've only just begun to live. Think of the profundity of those words. We've only just begun to live.
Those backgrounds are so lush and beautiful, and they're known for that lush quality and stuff. Richard was so gifted, just the way he would do that. And I think that's one of the things that my father really admired is the production of these records. And you know, I mean, I know she was a drummer. It's like she was a drummer. We forget how freaking badass she was, you know, and underrated and just like no one really understands that. This is a woman who was, you know, her rhythm. I mean, maybe that's part of it, you know, the way she would approach her vocals. She had that rhythm. I mean, first of all, anybody that can play the drums and sing, my hat's off to them. I tend to focus on her, like the quality of her voice, because it's just so mesmerizing to me and so incredibly smooth. It's just the most beautiful voice ever to me.
For me, it's not just the music, but it brings up memories. It's bittersweet. And childhood of a California that doesn't exist anymore. They were Southern Californians, so I think that they weren't natives, I don't think, but I might as well call them Californians because I think they were in Downey from a very young age. And I remember later years when I was in the Go-Go's, well, I still am. My boyfriend and I used to drive, he was from Downey, and we used to drive past their apartment buildings. They had We've Only Just Begun and Close to You, these two kind of 60s or 70s looking apartment buildings. But anyway, I mean, they're just, for me, it just, they you know, it just transcends music to me. It's memories, it's emotions, it's of days gone by. You know, I can't really say much more about it than that.
I didn't spend that kind of personal time with them, but I think they just wanted to make music and leave them alone. Just let them make music. I think they would have been happier in the studio, just making music. And when I've been on the road all these years with musicians are so happy in rehearsal when they're making music. And I think that the stardom that accompanied their great success probably had a lot to with doing her in. When you are that famous, people, even back then, not like today, but people back then, they can say terrible things. And if you're already a little insecure and you haven't developed your thick skin, and you've got to, if you don't develop your thick skin in this business, you will crumble. The Carpenters, thank God that it's all recorded and we can listen to it for the end of time. And I'm sure that going forward, there will be groups that do covers of their songs. I haven't heard a lot of people do it because it's so unique. It's like singing a Whitney Houston song. You don't want to sing a Whitney Houston song, but down the road, people will start doing that. And that's the extreme flattery.